All right, and welcome back to your favorite Wednesday night talk show. I am Dash, and you are watching A Dash of Life. And tonight we have a great guest. Before we bring him on, though, I just want to say thank you, man. What a week we are having here at Dash of Life. We just had our first book published, paperback and ebook. It's up on Amazon. Check my Facebook and my Instagram out for that. We've also got to have my 48th birthday, so happy birthday to me. Thank you very much. It's great. It's good to be 48 and still be able to do great things. But now we're going to be getting on for the show tonight. We got Edward coming on. He's a comic book artist. So as soon as we get him, bring up and we'll be getting going. Next week, remember, we got Tom Golightly. Again, we're going to be talking about mental health with athletes, a lot of stuff that's going on in the nation right now with athletes and their mental health. So we'll be talking about that next week. But we're going to be bringing Edward on here in just a few minutes. So, like I said, he's a comic book writer, creates his own comic books. So we're going to be bringing him on. The reason we're a little bit late tonight is because we wanted to make sure we had enough time to talk with him tonight. Because he's out on the West Coast in California. So as soon as we get him, we'll bring him up and we'll go from there. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful night, and glad that you were able to come out and talk with us tonight. So let's see if we can get him up and going. Edward, if you're out there, just jump on, open it up all the way, and we'll get you connected. And like I said, we got some great stuff coming up this month. I want to thank everybody that's pitched in a lot of their ideas. I got a lot of feedback over the week. So I will try. I am taking notes on what you guys are saying, so I'll try to put this all into effect as they come and when we make the changes for the show. But I just want to keep trucking with this, and I appreciate each and every one of you that are watching. So if you have any questions for me, if you have any feedback for me, please feel free to let me know on the page, on the channel. You can direct message me however you feel like you want to do it, but just let me know. And like I said, I love feedback, and I have gotten a lot of great feedback. Trust me, over the week, it was awesome. So it was fun to sit there and actually get some good feedback on that. So we're going to be bringing Edward up here in just a minute. So I'm going to shoot out an invite and we'll get him going and we'll go from there. And give me just a second. I'm going to shoot the invite. And hopefully we'll do that there. So like I said, any feedback that you guys can give us, let us know. We're always working on this channel day in and day out, trying to find new and exciting ways to bring you better content. And it's fun to do this, and I'm learning. Like I said, only been doing this for, I've been on YouTube for about 3 months now. So still learning, in the learning stages, but it helps that I finally get some good feedback going. So we're going to try to bring Edward on here in just a second. So just waiting on him to join in. I hope everybody's having a good night. Got some new people watching tonight, so it's pretty cool. So let us know what you think after the show's over, and we'll try to make it where you guys get to enjoy it and come out and see us every night. Edward, if you're out there, go ahead and shoot us an invite. Technical difficulties. So, like I said, next week we've got Tom Golightly from high school again. We went to school together. We're going to be talking about mental health with athletes in sports nowadays. A lot of that's been going on. We've seen it in the Olympics. We've seen it with tennis players. So lots of things going on. We talk about, he's at Brigham Young University. We'll talk about some of the players that he deals with and how he handles it and stuff like that. So that's going to be a great show. So let me see if I can get him on real quick. Hey Edward, if you're watching, open it up all the way so I can show that you're watching, and then I can send you an invite. There he goes. You guys for being patient. We got Edward coming on, and here in just a few seconds. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
I am excellent. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great.
Good. You're out there in California, all the way out there in California, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Edward Davis. He's a comic book writer. I've been trying to get some guys with comic backgrounds for a while. We finally got one through a mutual friend, Angel. If you haven't watched any of our Marvel stuff, go check it out. But Edward, what an honor it is to get to talk to you tonight on my show. So welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your comic book.
My comic book is called Immortal Era. It's currently just funded the 5th issue on Kickstarter. It closed out on Monday. And the basic premise of my story is it takes place 200 years in the future in a post-apocalyptic world where no one can die. So it's kind of a different take on immortality, the take that immortality sucks. You don't want to be immortal because in this world, you don't gain any abilities, you have no powers, you're going to still age, you're going to still get sick, you're going to lose limbs because there's lots of limbs getting lopped off in my book. And we have a character who's just a decapitated head. So it's not a state you want to be in. So it's actually kind of a backward story where my characters are trying to find a way to bring back the natural life cycle, wherein the only way to save humanity is by killing them.
So what gave you the idea to start this comic?
This comic, it's a story I've been working with for years. I started the first draft I ever wrote of it was back in 1998. And I started thinking it was going to be a novel trilogy because even though I was a comic reader since I was old enough to pick up a book, I didn't understand the concept that you don't have to actually be an artist to create a comic book. I thought, all right, you have to have some kind of artistic ability. Even if you're just the writer, you got to be able to draw and sketch and storyboard. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized, okay, this could be something that could be a comic book, but it was just one of those things that was a back burner idea. You start to get busy, you have kids, you start working on a master's degree, and that story that you've been working on just kind of keeps getting shoved aside, but it just wouldn't go away. So
Right.
I work at a school, and my librarian's actually a Kubert School artist. He had graduated from there, and I was just bouncing the idea off him, and he's like, we have to make this idea into a comic book. So I thought, wow, you know what? That would be so amazing because, comics were my first love. That was the first things I started to read were old comic books, going to the swap meet and picking up those trade paperbacks of, the old Golden Age Spider-Man and Batman and Superman and Justice League. So that, started my passion for reading. And when he said, let's make this into a comic book, I just went online. I thought, how do you write a comic script? And the answer is however the heck you want. There's no one universal format for comic scripting. You find the way that works for you. So I started tearing through all these trade paperbacks I had and digging into that section I usually ignored where they give that script excerpt and just reading all these different script excerpts. And I found it in Saga. And that was the one that I had the big Saga collected version. And that had a script format that kind of worked for my own sensibility. And I started taking all these notes, huge stacks of papers and notepads, and just adapting all of it into comic script. And now it's, moving forward, just I still go through it. I circle what can be used, what visual stuff will work for the book. Because one thing you find is if you're taking a novel and moving it into a comic book, you have to trim a lot of fat.
Oh yeah.
Because the first draft I did, it was so wordy. I covered all of the art. So you're like, okay, time to chop. And that's basically what comic writing was for me. It was like chopping so that people would still understand the story, but not be bogged down by so much text that they can't see the good art that's there.
Yeah. So what goes into just one comic book? How long does it take you to like obviously you've had this going on for a while, and you probably had it as a novel, you said, but what
Mhm.
goes into one issue just for you writing alone?
One issue, I mean, now it's a lot faster process because I've been working with the same art team now for a few years. But when it started, it was a lot of back and forth. It was, okay, you have to send them what's called a character Bible, and that has descriptions of all your characters, and we have to go back and forth with the character design. So it started with just that. And once the character designs were done, we move into the next part of actually building all of these worlds. We had an underground city that's just this abandoned subway, and turning that into what looks like a city. And then we had this city that was crumbling and polluted. So you do a lot of world building to start, and that's probably about a 6-month process of just back and forth. And then you actually start digging into the script and doing those pages. So the artist sends you really rough outline so we can kind of get an idea of the angles and everything. And it's just rough sketches. It's not even stick figures, just kind of lines here, lines there. And you do that, and that takes, that's probably a several-week process. And then he actually starts the pencils and the inks. So, I mean, for the first issue, it took about 6 months from the point I started talking to the artist to having an actual finished set of pencils ready to go and send off to the colorist. The colorist takes another 3 to 4 weeks, and the letters are the fastest process. Those take about 2 to 3 weeks. But for that initial issue, it was a long process, because you have to also learn your art team. And now that we've been working together, he's already working on issue 6. He's nearly finished with all the pencils and inks for that. It's a lot faster process. Now it's about 2 to 3 months from the point I sent him a completed script to him actually sending those completed pencils.
Man, that's fantastic. Now you're independent, correct? You're not with
Yeah.
any like Marvel or anything like that. How do my viewers and myself, how do we get a hold of some of your past comics and the ones that are coming out? How would we be able to find those and purchase them?
I do have a web store. It's on Finish Line Comics. So if you go to finishlinecomics.com, there's a link to a web store right there. I also do Kickstarters for every new issue. So that's one way to get the newest issue that's coming out. And whenever I do run a Kickstarter, I always make sure that I have catch-up packages so that you can buy all the previous issues. But I have the previous issues on my web store. The only thing you wouldn't be able to get on the web store currently is issue 5, because the Kickstarter backers get it first. I have to get all of that fulfilled, and then I put it onto the web store as soon as all the Kickstarter people have their package, because I don't want them to feel like they're getting it last, because those who backed it,
Absolutely.
I send it all out, and then immediately it goes up on the web store. And then, finding it at different cons. It's in comic shops, but it's kind of localized. I don't have it in comic shops nationwide. It's just there's comic shops in California that carry the book. But my goal is to start getting it out to more comic shops. But to get it in previews, you have to do a way higher print count than I'm ready to do, because you do that, and then it's also a waiting game. You have to wait several months before you actually get paid. So you're putting a lot out to start, and it's a high risk endeavor.
Yeah. So is Immortal your only comic that you have, or do you have other books that you've worked on?
This is my only book right now. I have several titles that I'm hoping to launch next year. My goal is for this year to finish the first story arc in Immortal Era so that I can put out the first trade. Because even though it's a fully independent comic, you still get people with that I'm waiting for the trade mentality. And I go to a con and they're like, oh yeah, issue 6 is when the trade comes out. I'll just wait for that. So I want to have a trade available. And once that trade is out, then I want to launch my second title. And then I'm also working on another title with another creator where I'm actually not the creator of the story. I'm just writing it for him. So that's something we should see hopefully next year as well. But that'll be in in small increments. It'll be 6 pages at a time in an anthology that other creators put in. So that's the first work I've written. It's not an idea that I wrote. I'm just working as the writer for someone else's idea. So kind of fun playing in someone else's toy box. He gives me
Oh
the
yeah,
basic ideas and I pull out the script. So that one we're hoping to have out next year as well. So I'm hoping that this year I close out that first story arc. There's a lot of issues to go, because when it's all said and done, Immortal Era is going to be a 30-issue series. So I want to have those 30, or I want to have the first 6 out, and then the art team for Immortal Era will be working on issue 7, but I'll be working with, I may end up working with the same art team. It just depends on if they want to do this idea. But then it's that whole 6-month process. We have to do character designs, we have to do world design. So launching the new title, it would probably be summer of next year before you would actually see it, and I would put it out on Kickstarter.
awesome. So what is the hardest for you? Is it the world building? Is it character creation? What, when you're writing, what do you find hard? The hardest part?
I think the hardest part is just those quiet moments that you need to do for character development, because it's easy and it's fun to write big action scenes, and issue 4 of my series was kind of just a big action issue. So it was big and lots of explosions and fighting. But when you're doing those quiet moments where your characters are talking and you're giving that exposition, that's kind of letting people know the rules of your world, because I have to establish a full world with rules that don't apply in the real world. I mean, in the real world you can die, in this world you can't. But what does this immortality mean? It's, can you still take somebody out? So you have to build those things and you have to write those scenes. So a big action issue, it feels like it almost writes itself. But those quieter issues, those ones are the ones that are just, they're harder to work on. And for me, you get those moments where you're frozen up and you're stuck in a rut. You have writer's block, and you still got to keep plugging away and moving the story forward, because now I've done 4 Kickstarter campaigns. People expect new issues to keep coming. So it's like, all right, shut up, writer's block. Let's keep this story moving.
Oh man, I can imagine. What did you do to research for Immortal Era? What was it that you used the most to research for it?
For research, I just had to kind of research post-apocalyptic worlds, what they might look like, and also just kind of reading stories that have immortality in them. So it started with the story that kind of sparked it all was Gulliver's Travels. I was reading Gulliver's Travels. I was an English lit major, and he goes to an island where everybody's immortal, but they continue to age. It kind of follows the same rules as my book. So that's where the rules come from. And then it was also just like, how do you build cities and worlds? So it was a lot of reading comic books along the same genre lines, and then also different novels that I had read. I read the On a Pale Horse series, and that one had, kind of deaths, people stop dying. So I thought, all right, let me read these kind of things and play around with the world. But I found I don't want to research too much, because you don't want people to go, well, that idea sounds like this and that idea sounds like that. And I tell them, hey, I ripped off Jonathan Swift. I'm guilty. So, I ripped off a master, and I'm sure if you read another book, so did they. So, we're both stealing from the great. So how can we make it our own is the rule.
Yeah, that's Matt. I'm going to go on and order these, especially after I talked to Angel and I started, we became friends. I started sifting through some of your stuff. So I'm definitely going to go get this, because it sounds very, very interesting. If someone was to get into writing, like you said, it's, it doesn't, you don't have to, you can write a comic book. You don't have to have rules, but what would you tell someone new coming into it? What would be the best advice you could give them right now about if they wanted to write a comic book?
I think if they want to write a comic book, the first thing you got to do is just decide where your story's going, because even though this is a 30-issue series, I know the end. I've written the end of the series already. So you want to kind of know your ending, because you don't want to spin your wheels. You don't want to just have the point where people are thinking, all right, let's get on with this story. And then plan out your story arcs. Maybe you're writing a one-issue story, so you plan out that story. Know your beginning, know your middle, know your end, know all of your big moments, and just my outlines for the story arcs are really rough. They're just, most people would look at them and have no idea what's going on, but you want to make sure that you map out where your story's going, whether it's a short story or a long story. Even if it's 6 pages, know where each of those pages are going to go. And then don't even start scripting it until you've really written it raw. And I always start it as a first person narrative because that's how the novel was written. So it kind of moves through one character. So I start all my writing from her first person narrative point of view, and then just start picking out what images in that would work in a comic book form. And then there's always little excerpts from the journal that are inside the story. And then just edit and revise, and don't trust your eyes to be the only eyes to read the story. Send it to other people, and not just family and friends, because of course they're going to be like, that's so amazing, you wrote a story. Send it to someone who is an editor. Now, I do have my wife as the editor, but she's not just, a nodding yes man. She will say, well, this doesn't make sense, because of course you know the whole story in your head. So you have to make sure that other people who read it, who don't know all of your major beats, can understand it and that it has a good flow. So I actually have 2 editors, because you can never trust yourself. So I have one editor, my wife, she looks at story components and makes sure that the story makes sense. And then I have another editor who makes sure that all the grammar and punctuation is clean, because there's so many stigmas involved with indie comics, and you don't want someone to look at your book and feel like they're looking at an inferior product. And bad grammar, bad punctuation, that's the quickest way to lose readers, because they're going to see, okay, this is just, some kind of thing that that they're putting out, and they're not putting all their thoughts and efforts. You want your book to look like, if it's sitting on a shelf next to Marvel, next to DC, that this book looks like it belongs there.
Man, that's awesome. So what does the future hold? Or like you said, you got a couple more ideas. Is it to be bring other people in with you to kind of start your own thing, or you just want to stay independent? What is your future goal?
My future goal, I want to keep writing stories of my own, but I would love to publish some other people under the umbrella of Finish Line Comics. I don't want it to be just a comic company where I publish my own stuff. Obviously it's that already, but I would love to have other creators be a part of this and let them tell their stories the same way, where you don't have to worry about, there's no agenda, there's no, okay, here's what you have to do. It's more of, tell your story, and you don't have to worry about compromising your vision. I want it to, if I publish someone else, I would expect them to, use an editor, make sure that it looks like a product that belongs with the big guns, but be able to publish them. And I also really, this is an idea I've run by other creators, so I feel like next year it's something that's going to happen. I want to publish an annual anthology that takes place in the same universe, but see other creators' vision of this immortal world. So I already have a few creators that are interested in the idea, and they're from different countries, so I'd love to see what's it look like in Europe, what's it look like in Asia, because my scope is so small. I have one city, everything takes place in there. And the world grows, but we never go across the ocean to see what's happening. So I'd love to see people's takes on what's going on all around the world.
That's fantastic. We have a question from Jay Burns. It says, such an original story, but is there any ideas for the hardcover?
The hardcover, I'm going to work with some other people, because Jay's been reading it. He started, I think, on I had issue 2 out when he started, and for the hardcover, I want to do something special and something fun. There will be a softcover trade that'll be your cheap trade that I can put at shows and try to get the readers in on that. But for the hardcover, I want to do something really exciting. I did write already. There's a 6-page epilogue to issue 6 that will only be in that hardcover trade. So it has something, because if people have been reading it since issue 1, it's kind of like, all right, well, I already have the issues. What do you have in here? So we'll do definitely a cover gallery. We had an art contest during COVID when all the cons got shut down. We did it in 2020. So I'll put all the work from the art contest. So I want it to be kind of big and special and not just reprint the issues. And when it gets reprinted, there will be some little modifications to certain panels that have bugged me since day one. It's like, okay, we'll fix those ones. We'll make sure the lettering's got good continuity. And then we'll have those script excerpts that I know a lot of people ignore, but I mean, they ended up saving the day for me because I went to those script excerpts and that's how I found the format that worked for me. So maybe another creator will look at mine and say, all right, I like this particular style. That's the one I'm going to use. So I also want to do something kind of, I bought one that, I'm going blank on the name now. Oh, Wailing Blade. And this hardcover was just so spectacular because you had the front image and then you had the underneath it, the image that was underneath, and they had like the hollow foil going on. So I'd love to pull something like that off and just do it on a really small, limited run, maybe just print 100 of those for the Kickstarter campaign. So I have a lot of plans, and the art team's already working on the epilogue, and I just want to make it a big fun package where you'll have your kind of bare bones soft cover one that'll just reprint the issues, and then you'll have your big hardcover one that's everything in the kitchen sink thrown into that one.
That's great. All right, last question before we get off here. If you had the choice to write your favorite character, like Marvel, DC, whatever company it was, your dream job, they knocked on your door and they said, hey, we want you to write this character, who would it be?
See, I've always loved Batman, so I would love the chance to do Batman. The problem with that is it would be so hard to do something that nobody's already seen. So it would be kind of fun to think, all right, we've seen it all with Batman. How can I write a story that will surprise people and get people on board? So I would love the shot to work with Batman, and it'd be great to be able to write like a one shot for Preacher, because that was the story that kind of reignited my love for comics. Because I got tired of Marvel and DC and all of their special events, because everything was a special event, and I really got hooked on the long form stories like Sandman and Preacher and Why the Last Man. So I'd love to be able to do like a little one shot in those universes.
Yeah, man. Those would be great. Yeah, I'm right there with you. DC and Marvel kind of ruined the epic events when there's one every 6 months. So but Preacher is a great one. Yeah, man. If you ever, please let me know if you ever get to do a Preacher. I would love to see a Preacher one. That would be
I
awesome.
wish that would be a dream. Just kind of like, all right, the story's been told, but there's always stuff that's in the middle. I mean, that's how there's always new Sandman stories still arising, even though that story's done. You have years and years to happen before and after, so you could do early Jesse Custer, something that happened with him, or when he had his power, just a time that we didn't see what was going on. So I think Batman always being my first love, that would be fun. But to write in those universes of the people that reignited my love for comics when I was kind of getting fed up, that would be amazing too.
Yeah, man, that is fantastic. Well, Edward, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. We're definitely going to have you back so we can celebrate that trade that you have coming out. But I just wanted to get my friends to kind of get to know you a little bit as well, and so we can definitely want to have you back when you get number 6 out. We'll talk about that and the trade, and we'll go from there. And I'd love to if you ever get to a con, and maybe we can do you're at a convention, we'll kind of do a live like this from where you're at a convention or something, just to kind of get the people to see what it's like at a convention.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for coming out. Enjoy your night. Or I guess you're out there. It's still kind of daytime there for you.
It's dark now, so now it's nighttime, ready to move in and start dinner.
All right. Well, thank you, Edward, for coming on. Appreciate you so much. Angel, thanks for hooking us up. A great guy to talk to. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I look forward to doing it again, like I said, when the trade's out, and we can celebrate that. And I hope I can give something, because I know Jay, he's one. I managed to get him for single issues, but I'm hoping to blow people away for the trade. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Edward. What a great show. Comic books, that's my favorite land to be in. Just it gets to take you away to so many different places. So I appreciate. So come out, keep tuning in. This will be uploaded onto YouTube in the next couple of days. So if you missed the live, you'll be able to catch it on the replay on YouTube. So thank you from the bottom of my heart coming out. We'll see you again soon, Edward. Have a good night, guys. Remember what I say every week. Take care of one another, love one another, and I'll see you next show.